when we talked about what is the vision and national service, I think it does not begin or should not begin at the high school level. I think it needs to go to the primary school level.
Leveraging and launching our creative industries in the country.
That's gotten mixed reviews.
Well, I think what got mixed reviews is not the concept, but the labeling.
What we do today will affect those coming after us.
Good evening, Bahamas. You're tuned into MB12, broadcasting from Cable 12 Studios on Robinson Road. Coming up tonight in news, scores of people led by a Cuban-American movement protest outside the Bahamas Consulate in Miami. Some Haitian migrants affected by that Shantytown fire already heading back to their native land. Police say women are behind a spree of housebreakings in eastern New Providence, plus Hot 91.7 FM celebrates a birthday. We've got those stories and so much more coming up. I'm Paige McCartney, and MB12 starts right now. Welcome once again to MB12. The Bahamas and Cuba, like the Bahamas and the United States, have had good relations for decades. But one group of Cuban Americans is now taking concerns about the Bahamas' human rights record to the international stage, and the Bahamas is hitting back. Christina McNeil has the story.
Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell dismissed earlier protests as a smear campaign against the Bahamas. But those protests scaled up a notch today.
Bahama, you're helping Cuba. They don't see the other side. The bad side of Bahama, the evil, the inhumane acts of Bahama. Get informed, folks. Don't visit Bahama. Get informed. If you belong to the human race, do not go to the Bahamas, please.
That was just a taste of what greeted onlookers as well as employees at the Bahamas Consulate on Southeast 2nd Avenue in Miami, Florida, between noon and 3 this afternoon. Dozens of protesters, whose numbers eventually swelled to a crowd of about 80 to 100 people, according to Miami Council General Ricardo Trico, took to the sidewalk and sometimes the street directly across from the consulate, screaming derogatory comments. They're protesting the purported abuse of several Cuban detainees at the Carmichael Road Detention Center in recent weeks, and the subsequent arrest and transport to Her Majesty's prisons of 3 Cubans alleged to have staged a video depicting the alleged abuse and for what national security officials termed hostile behavior. Trico says about half a dozen U.S. law enforcement officers stood by to make sure things remained calm, and he says they did. He also says there was a caravan of about 20 cars circling the building, in addition to the sign-toting protesters. Though the business of the embassy continued today, Ramon Sal Sanchez, leader of the democracy movement and one of 2 men who have been participating in a hunger strike for several days now, says he was barred entry to the consulate today as he tried to continue to establish dialogue. Though the government has repeatedly refuted the claims of abuse, Sanchez and his followers today repeated the reasoning behind their cause to U.S. media outlets.
The Bahamian government has been torturing undocumented migrants. We have a video that supports this. We have testimonies of many victims that have been beaten by the guards in the detention center. And what we're asking from the government is to investigate these abuses and to commit to a policy of respect for human rights of not only the Cubans but also the Haitians and the North and South American, or rather the Central and South American refugees that end up in the Bahamas in their way to other places.
Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell has outright denied these allegations and has urged Bahamians to stiffen their resolve against what has been described as a smear campaign against the Bahamas. Sanchez claims that his group and the Bahamas government had come to sort of an agreement through an intermediary late last week, but the Bahamas supposedly reneged on the deal. He says that since he cannot establish a proper dialogue with the Bahamas, the hunger strike and protests will continue.
Our hunger strike will continue until such time as the Bahamas makes good its agreement with us and through the office of Federal Representative Joe Garcia to commit to the points that we initially established, which is to investigate the incidents of torture in the Bahamas and discipline those that are guilty, to commit to a policy of respect for human rights, and to interview people according to international covenants on the rights of people who request political asylum.
Speaking to reporters outside Cabinet today, Mitchell noted that the Bahamas government is working to have the issues resolved as swiftly as possible. This as he continued to question the motives behind the row.
We have indicated that if that is the position, that the U.S. will take them. If an airplane is available tomorrow, they can come and get them. The deportation order was signed some time ago, so as soon as we can find a country that's willing to take them, they can go. The problem, as you know, is they're stuck in this kind of no man's land because the indications are so far that the U.S. won't take them, and of course their country of birth is saying they're no longer residents of that country. I find this a very curious comment to make for people who are citizens living in Miami, a city and an area that benefits from $1.1 billion US of Bahamian spending a year, would be wanting to do something to injure our economy. And it really is something that they ought to consider very carefully, because we don't want to get into that kind of row.
He also noted that investigations continue into claims of mistreatment and abuse of Cuban detainees while in the Bahamas. This protest followed a smaller protest in the Port of Miami by the Democracy Movement 2 weeks ago. Prime Minister Perry Christie recently said that he is concerned the Bahamas is caught in the middle of a human rights battle over Cubans. He said while everyone must be treated with dignity and respect, the government has to protect its interests. Regarding the Cubans being held at Her Majesty's prison, their lawyer has filed a writ of habeas corpus demanding that they be brought before a court. They are expected to appear before a magistrate on Thursday. Reporting for NB12, I'm Christina McNeil.
More than a week after a massive fire ravaged a shanty town off Joe Farrington Road, hundreds of Haitians and Bahamians who call the community home could now face further troubles. Member of Parliament for Elizabeth Ryan Pinder says he believes the deadline government gave landowners to either bring those structures up to code or evict their tenants has passed. That means landowners could face further action. Bonnie Toot returned to the shanty town today and she got residents' reaction.
8 days after fire left more than 100 residents of this shanty town homeless, we understand 3 displaced residents have returned to Haiti. Community leader Joel Pierre says even more of them are willing to return to their homeland if government provides airfare.
They are willing to go back because if they're not working, what are they going to do? Where are they going to find the money to pay the apartment to live? They can't stay on the street, so they're willing to go back home. Because according to the meeting that we have with the Haitian ambassador, some of them, they are willing to go. Yeah, they are.
But they just can't afford it. Would they need assistance, financial assistance in getting back? Is that the hold up?
Yes, yes. That's what hold them up. The ticket, airline ticket.
Pierre says the community, which is home to some 400 Haitians and Bahamians, hasn't been the same since last week's fire, which reduced at least 30 homes to ash and rubble. When our news team returned to the shanty town off Joe Farrington Road today, few people could be seen gathered under trees or selling snacks from tiny tuck shops. Otan's Prefet, who moved to the Bahamas in 1995, says he was in Haiti when the massive fire destroyed his home and everything inside it. He says he too would be willing to accept a free ticket to Haiti. However, he'd prefer to stay in the Bahamas if he finds a job.
Thank you very much. If I find some job, something like that, to could pay my bill, I could stay. If I don't find nothing to do, I could go on.
But you don't want to go?
Yeah, I could go. I could go.
To Haiti?
Yeah, doesn't matter. I don't have no money to pay ticket. That's what happened.
I don't have no money to go back to Haiti.
However, their chance of getting free transportation seems slim at this point. Member of Parliament for Elizabeth Ryan Pinder says, though government has provided food, clothing, and temporary shelter for the displaced, voluntary repatriation is out of the ordinary.
Government financing of repatriation efforts is for those who have been detained as here illegally and against the immigration laws. I think it would be out of the ordinary for government to finance voluntary travel back home for somebody. I think it's against really the norm.
Those Haitian nationals who are determined to stay here in the Bahamas may still have to look for somewhere else to live. Elizabeth MP Ryan Pinder told reporters this morning he believes the notice government gave to property owners has expired, which means they are now subject to further action.
Then there would be further enforcement proceedings against the property owners.
Like?
You would have to ask the Minister of Works and Minister of Housing, but I think there's fines, and ultimately I think the government would have the power and authority to take down structures that are inconsistent with law.
Last month, Environment Minister Kenrick Dorsett said government intends to crack down on shanty towns. Last week, the landowner's attorney said they would not allow the people displaced by the fire to rebuild. Pierre, who says he is a Bahamian citizen, told us today they have accepted it may be time to move on.
The only thing we're expecting now is find a place where we could go. We have no choice. We have no choice. We got to move because this is a private property. When the owner says move, you got to move.
He says they first received a notice from the landlord on June 19th. However, Pierre, who is unemployed, says he doesn't know where they would go because few of them can afford to move into apartments.
A lot of them, they are professional, they have skills, but due to the fact that they are illegal, some of them due to the fact that because they are illegal, it is not easy for them to find work.
However, he thanked government for the help provided to the displaced after the fire. Regardless of what happens, Pierre says he knows they will recover.
No matter how it is, no matter how hard I know that it's going to be so tough for some of us, but we still living because we believe there is a God that watching over us.
Reporting for NB12, I'm Vonique Tude.
Well, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of electronics recovered as police break a major housebreaking ring. But the number of flat-screen televisions stolen perhaps isn't the most surprising part of this investigation. Police say 6 of the 11 people arrested so far in connection to this housebreaking ring are females. Officer in charge of the Eastern Division, Superintendent Elaine Sands, says the involvement of women in housebreaking rings is relatively new, but it's something members of the public should be aware of.
Of note, 3 females were involved who were charged. There were 3 females charged. Altogether, 6 females were questioned, 3 of whom were charged, and 2 males were charged already before the court. This investigation is not completed. There are a number of persons who are being sought as it relates to this ring. It's a kind of new trend. We had suspected over the past year or 2, we had suspected that women were involved, but now we really are sure that women are involved, that women are being used in these break-ins.
Officers say homeowners should not only be aware of women attempting to enter their homes, but anyone who may appear to be a service provider, especially if you've not put in a request for a service, call.
So I just want the public to be mindful of females knocking to their doors, okay? And they must try to get to know who it is at their door before they open it. And don't just open your door to any stranger. Because like I said, there are not only males involved, there are females.
If you know you have not called a service provider and someone shows up at your door, then the next thing you should do is call the police. Make the police aware that there's someone in the area going around knocking on doors so that we can get to the area and try and find out who these persons are. You didn't call them, but they're showing up at your door knocking. We want you to call us.
Sands says the housebreaking ring targeted homes all across New Providence, so even if you don't live in the Eastern Division, your items may have been seized during the operation.
So you can come to the police station, that's Elizabeth State Police Station, for identification purposes. There's a number of televisions, DVD players, we have jewelry, we have also laptops, we have CDs, and so we're asking the public who were victims to come forward, please, and identify these items.
And police are encouraging members of the public to make note of any identification characteristics, such serial numbers and receipts, in the event their items are stolen, to make the identification process easier. Despite this, all recent crime statistics show that house break-ins decreased by 23% since the start of the year up to the middle of this month compared to the same period last year.